At the engagement banquet, Ethan learned that his first love was being forced into an arranged marriage with his blind rival. Without hesitation, he rushed to register a marriage certificate with her. That very afternoon, the two flew to Iceland for their honeymoon. Their childhood love, so touching and profound, went viral across the internet. Meanwhile, I became the disgraceful third party who had interfered in their love, suffering such intense cyberbullying that I couldn't even step out of my house. Unexpectedly, that blind rival of Ethan showed up at my door. I've always been one to repay grievances in full. Since that brat Ethan stole my fiancé, I'll just have to steal his woman. Fair trade requires reciprocity, Miss Shaw. Would you be willing to register a marriage with me? I glanced at the trending search, where their romantic kiss under the aurora was all over the internet. Without hesitation, I handed my household registration booklet to the man before me. Even after receiving the marriage certificate, I still couldn't believe I had just entered a flash marriage. Moreover, my husband was not Ethan, my boyfriend of 8 years, but Henry, someone I had only met a few times, who had once stood on the opposing side. Once the certificate is issued, there's no backing out. When are you moving in? Realizing what he meant, my face instantly heated up. Luckily, he couldn't see it. Half a month. I still need some time to pack. Henry nodded. That works. Half a month is enough time to prepare for our wedding. Buy whatever you like. He stuffed a black card into my hand, his flushed ears betraying the excitement he tried to hide. I pressed my lips into a smile, thinking it was not a bad start. 10 days into my honeymoon, Ethan finally remembered to call me. No, I am getting married in 5 days too. Ethan's face darkened like ink. Wendy, are you done yet? When did I ever say I wanted to marry you? I furrowed my brows slightly. Ethan, don't get ahead of yourself. The person I'm marrying is not you. He sneered repeatedly. After being with me for 8 years, who else would want you? A used woman? People should know their own worth. Don't foolishly ruin your own future. He stepped forward and roughly yanked the diamond ring off my finger, not caring as my finger was scratched and the skin torn. He was full of joy as he tried to put the diamond ring on Cynthia's finger, but realized the ring was too small to fit. I'll take this ring. Please resize it. How much will it cost? The salesperson quietly mentioned a price and Ethan and Cynthia's faces turned pale. Wendy, even if you don't want me to marry Ethan, there's no need to be so despicable and raise the price to trick us. Ethan shook his head at me in disappointment. Wendy, I never thought you'd be this vicious. They tried to take my ring, couldn't afford the price and then turned around to blame me. The two of them left angrily and I received a call from Henry. Do you like the diamond ring? Don't forget, you need to try on the wedding dress later. Yes, I really like it. I drove to the bridal shop Henry had specified and as soon as I entered, I saw Cynthia caressing a one-shoulder wedding dress. Miss Green, I'm sorry, but this dress has already been reserved. I want this one. Call the person who reserved it. I'm willing to pay 10% more to buy it. When the sales associate saw me enter, her eyes lit up. The real customer is here. Why don't you communicate directly with her, Miss Green? When she saw me, there was a flash of unwillingness and anger in Cynthia's eyes. Wendy, why do you always haunt me and go against me? You took my wedding ring before and now you're stealing my wedding dress. Beside her, Ethan frowned deeply. Wendy, you said you wanted to break up with me, but you're forcing me to marry you with your wedding ring and wedding dress. You're really shameless. Even if you come to steal my wedding, I won't even spare you a glance. I'll give both the wedding dress and the wedding ring to Cynthia. I laughed softly. Who says that buying a wedding ring and wedding dress means I'm going to marry you? You're not the only man in the world. You can't afford a wedding ring or a wedding dress and now you expect me to give them to you for free? Ethan's face turned between pale and seeing this, Cynthia covered her face and ran out. Ethan, since you've already decided on the wedding ring and dress, I'm unnecessary. I'll leave now. Wendy, Ethan, in a fit of rage, grabbed the scissors from the table and began slashing at the wedding dress without care. I'll make you stop forcing marriage and making Cynthia sad. You want to get married, right? Let's see what you'll wear to your wedding now that the dress is gone. This wedding dress was specially commissioned by Henry, with top designers working overtime to complete it. I rushed forward to stop him, but he shoved me to the ground and the sharp scissors immediately cut my other hand. Ethan seemed to have lost his mind, tearing the perfectly good wedding dress into pieces. Not satisfied, he stomped on it with force. Wendy, you're dreaming of marrying me? Keep dreaming. If you dare ruin my wedding 5 days from now, your end will be just like this wedding dress. After saying that, he didn't even glance at me and hurriedly chased after Cynthia. The sales assistant beside me turned pale and quickly made a phone call. In the midst of my daze, Henry called. Are you hurt? Don't worry about the wedding dress. I'll arrange for legal assistance to handle it. I'm sorry, I said with full of embarrassment and grievance. Wendy, it's just a wedding dress. It's okay. I'm overseas right now. I've asked someone to send you a gift, hoping it'll make you feel a bit better. As soon as I got home, a butler dressed in a suit and tie came to the door, seriously handing me a box. Inside was a complete set of emerald jewelry. This is the family heirloom of my family, passed down through generations to the matriarch of the Smith family. Please accept it, Miss Shaw. I carefully took the box, a wave of warmth flooding my heart. Henry truly respected me as his wife and for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future of our marriage. Just as I was about to pick up a call from a colleague regarding some unclear work details, I returned and found that the emerald heirloom was nowhere to be found. I searched the entire room, but there was no trace of it. The doors and windows showed no signs of being tampered with. Just as I was about to call the police, I suddenly saw Cynthia's post on her social media. Unable to find a wedding ring that I liked, who knew he would prepare traditional Elle jewelry for me instead? This must be what it feels like to marry for love. In the photo, Cynthia wore earrings, a necklace, and jade bracelets. Weren't those the very emerald heirlooms that Henry had given me? I opened the room surveillance footage and saw that after I left, Ethan and Cynthia had visited. Ethan, is this the surprise you prepared for me? It's so beautiful. Cynthia immediately set her eyes on the emerald jewelry I had left on the bedside table. Ethan paused for a moment, looking awkward as he stammered. I'm glad you like it. My heart was in turmoil. I couldn't think any longer and rushed to Ethan's house. When I arrived, Cynthia was showing off the jewelry set in front of Ethan's relatives. This is the heirloom from Ethan, she said smugly. He's already decided that I'm going to be the daughter-in-law of the Hill family. The shine on this is so impressive. Ethan really treated treat you well. My blood boiled in anger as I stormed forward and pointed at them. Thief, who gave you permission to steal my emerald jewelry? Give it back to me. Seeing me, Cynthia sneered and mocked me. Wendy, can you have some dignity? This set of jewelry is Ethan's family heirloom. When did it become your personal property? You've already taken my wedding ring and wedding dress, and now you want to steal the Hill family's heirloom? How shameless can you be? I looked at Ethan, who was standing beside me with a guilty expression. Are you sure this is your family's heirloom? Do you want me to call the police and confirm it right now? Ethan, embarrassed by my words, became enraged. Enough. Even if it's not my family's heirloom, but you stole Cynthia wedding ring and wedding dress, shouldn't you apologize to her? At worst, once Cynthia gets tired of it, I'll let you wear it for a few days. I felt my blood boil. I had never encountered such shameless behavior from such a pair of dogs. Not wanting to waste any more words, I pulled out my phone to call the police. Cynthia's eyes flickered, and she suddenly tore off the jewelry she was wearing. Wendy, stop making things difficult for us over and over again. If you want it, just take it. Just let us go. Ethan doesn't love you. Stop pestering him. She put on a look of being wrong, as if I were truly the shameless, persistent woman. Cynthia handed the jewelry to me, but suddenly let go and the entire set of emerald jewelry crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. My head rang and for a moment, it felt as if the blood in my body had frozen. However, Cynthia smiled slightly. Oh, why didn't you catch it, Wendy? It's such a pity. This fine emerald. Ethan looked down at me from above, his tone full of disdain. Wendy, stop embarrassing yourself. Take your junk and get out of my house. I looked at the shattered pieces on the ground, my heart aching beyond words. Ethan, I will never forgive you for the rest of my life. He sneered. So what if you don't forgive me? Don't come crawling back like a dog in a few days, begging me to take you back. I warn you, don't come and ruin my wedding in 5 days. If you're obedient, maybe I'll feel generous and visit you every once in a while. No need. You'd better never come looking for me again. With that, I turned and left his house and listed the house for sale. The family heirloom had been destroyed and I couldn't help but feel guilty. Henry continuously comforted me on the phone. It's just a material possession. Since I gave it to you, it's yours to do with as you please. Anyway, are you ready? I don't want my bride to be walking down the aisle with swollen eyes from crying. Before I knew it, the wedding day arrived and I inexplicably began to feel nervous. Just as I finished doing my makeup, of course, I bumped into Ethan in a suit in the bathroom again. Wendy, you're really thick-skinned. I've already told you not to come and disrupt the wedding. Are you deaf? Looks like if I don't teach you a lesson, you'll keep ignoring what I say. Someone, take her away and lock her up. I struggled desperately. Ethan, let go of me. I'm not trying to ruin your wedding. Ethan sneered. Wendy, even when you lie, you don't even bother to prepare. If you weren't trying to steal the wedding, why are you dressed like this? Let go of me. I told you, my marriage has nothing to do with you. The person I'm going to marry isn't you. He contemptuously pinched my chin. Besides me, who else would want you? Wendy, there's a limit to how much you can act. If you go too far, you'll just annoy people. Just as he ordered his men to take me away, a deep male voice came from behind. Mr. Hill, where do you plan to take my bride? My flight lands at 3 p.m. Come pick me up. There was no explanation and no acknowledgement, as if nothing had ever happened. Yet for the past 10 days, the internet had been abuzz with updates about his honeymoon with Cynthia. Every sweet moment was broadcast in real time. I watched them wrapped in each other's arms at the Blue Lagoon, sharing a passionate kiss under the aurora, making vows of eternal love on the black sand beach. He had taken someone else first to all the places I had once dreamed of visiting for my honeymoon. I'm busy. Get a taxi. Once upon a time, no matter when or where, just one word from him was enough for me to drop everything and run to his side without hesitation. Ethan fell silent for a moment before letting out a cold snort and hanging up. At this point, I thought this was an unspoken breakup between two adults. But when I got home that evening, I found him sitting on the sofa in a bathrobe. Seeing me, he casually lifted his gaze as if nothing had happened. The house is pretty tidy without me around. Over the past few days, I had thrown away many things related to Ethan. The couple's photo of us that once hung in the living room was now gone, yet he didn't seem to notice. He pointed at a paper bag on the table. A gift for you. Take a look. I glanced at it. It was a pile of broken seashells, some still covered in mud. Just moments ago, Cynthia had been flaunting on social media that Ethan had gifted her a massive ocean star gemstone. With the help of internet sleuths, I finally understood that all the so-called heartfelt gifts I had received over the years were nothing more than discarded trash. On Valentine's Day, he gave Cynthia a limited edition designer bag, while I got a heart folded from wrapping paper. On her birthday, he lit up the entire city with fireworks, yet took me to a street stall for skewers on mine. Every holiday, he claimed work kept him too busy to meet my parents, when in reality, he was dining with Cynthia's family instead. Mr. Hill, you're a married man now. Isn't it inappropriate to show up at my place in the middle of the night? A flicker of guilt flashed across Ethan's face. Wendy, I only did this to help Cynthia. Henry is cold, ruthless, and blind. I couldn't just stand by and watch Cynthia jump into the fire. Marrying her was just a temporary measure. After some time, I'll separate from her. He had already come up with his excuse. Mr. Hill, I have no interest in being the third party. Please leave. From the moment he abandoned me at the engagement banquet, we were already over. Ethan's face darkened. Wendy, can you stop being so selfish? Cynthia was worried you'd be heartbroken, so she asked me to come back and keep you company. And this is how you repay her kindness? If you were sensible, I could come and keep you company on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. After all, Cynthia and I are married, so I should spend more time with her. A bitter feeling rose in my heart. 8 years of love, only to end up as a hidden mistress. Ethan, we're breaking up. Ethan's face darkened, with a faint hint of anger. Wendy, are you taking my kindness for granted? It's just a piece of paper. Why are you making such a fuss? Before we had that piece of paper, you still let me sleep with you for 8 years. Now you're being all dramatic? If it weren't for you begging me in bed, saying you couldn't live without me, do you think I'd still want you? At your age, you're still playing hard to get games. How pathetic is that? I was shaking with rage. He had been the one who stubbornly pursued me back then, the one who drunkenly cried and asked me to help ease his pain. Now, he married Cynthia, turning me into a joke in everyone's eyes, and yet he blames me for being selfish and inconsiderate. Ethan, we're done. From now on, you live your life and I'll live mine. We have nothing to do with each other. Ethan was furious. He grabbed the bag of broken seashells and slammed it onto the ground, shattering it into pieces. Wendy, you still want to marry someone else? In this circle, everyone knows you've been with me for 8 years. You're already used up. Who would want an old spinster like you? In the tense silence, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Cynthia stepped out, wrapped in a bath towel, barefoot. I immediately stopped breathing. At the engagement banquet, Ethan had answered a call and rushed off. Over the past few days, I had been watching their displays of affection online. Now, I wasn't sure if it was more pain, bitterness, or anger I felt. This house was bought when Ethan and I were deeply in love, each of us contributing half the money. He said it would be our love nest, a place filled with our happy memories. Wendy, don't blame Ethan. He was just trying to help me. If you must blame someone, blame me. I'm the one who's unnecessary, she said as she reached out to grab my hand. I instinctively pulled my hand away, not even touching her, yet she let out a cry and fell to the ground. Before I could react, Ethan slapped me, knocking me to the ground. The sharp pain in my hand was immediate. The broken seashells on the floor pierced deeply into my palm and blood began to drip, splattering onto the ground. Are you okay, Cynthia? He turned around and glared at me with disgust. If anything happens to Cynthia, I won't let you off easily. He hurriedly carried Cynthia downstairs and rushed to the hospital. I struggled to stand up, looking around the house I had lived in for 8 years, feeling like it was strangely unfamiliar. On my bed, the sheets were wrinkled, a torn black stocking was draped over the edge and the floor was littered with used tissues. The air was filled with a disgusting smell. I hurried out, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. It was filthy and now even the house felt dirty. There were too many broken seashells stuck in my palm, so I had no choice but to take a taxi to the hospital. I purposely chose a hospital far from home, but as fate would have it, I ran into Ethan and Cynthia. Cynthia was holding her hand, which hadn't even been broken, and crying out in pain. Ethan, in his usual gentle manner, picked her up and sat her on his lap, carefully asking the doctor for any precautions. When we first got together, he had been just as anxious for me. One night, when I had a fever, he was so flustered that he didn't even put on shoes, only realizing later that his foot had been cut by glass after confirming that I was safe. Wendy, you are my precious. I can't bear to see you get hurt. As I walked out, I happened to bump into him just as he was entering. Wendy, Ethan was just accompanying me to check my injury. Are you so restless that you had to follow us here? Ethan gave me a contemptuous look. Aren't you just saying how we're broken up? What are you doing now? Wendy, you're too shameless. If you dare hurt a single hair on Cynthia again, I won't be polite with you. I raised my hand, now stained with blood. Look at the injury. Move aside. Ethan froze in place, a flash of guilt passing through his eyes. Wendy, is the injury serious? He tried to come inside but was interrupted by Cynthia's scream. Cynthia, my hand hurts so much. Ethan no longer paid attention to me, quickly turning around and carrying Cynthia away. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I received a message from Henry, asking me to make time to try on the custom wedding ring. After freshening up, I was surprised to see Ethan carrying breakfast into the room. You must be starving. Come eat. It was a basket of crab roe buns and a bowl of pumpkin porridge. One caused an allergy and the other was something I absolutely hated. Take the day off today. It's the changing of seasons. Let me take you shopping for some new clothes. It was the same old routine. He gave a little treat after a blow, something he often did over the years. However, when the time actually came, he took the back seat. Today, you drive. I didn't rest well last night. I looked at my hand, wrapped in bandages, and couldn't help but mock myself silently. In the rearview mirror, he held his phone, a faint smile playing on his lips. It wasn't until the car stopped and he saw the sign of the jewelry store outside that his expression immediately darkened. He blocked my way at the door, his face full of displeasure. Wendy, I've told you before, let's wait a bit. Why do you have to force me like this? I'm just getting a certificate with Cynthia, not holding a wedding. No one knows. Once the fuss dies down, we'll quietly get a divorce. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. Ethan, do you think this diamond ring is pretty? Cynthia was wearing a 1-carat diamond ring, raising her hand and acting coquettishly towards Ethan. Ethan immediately put on a smile. As long as you like it, it's beautiful. Our wedding is in 5 days. Can I buy this one as our wedding ring? I paused in my tracks, just in time to catch Ethan turning his head awkwardly. His words were all lies. But it didn't matter. In 5 days, it would be my wedding too. It seemed to confirm the idea of men and women marrying, each going their own way. The waiter carefully brought over the ring that Henry had ordered. It was a pink diamond, the only one of its kind in the world, stunning and dazzling. Cynthia's eyes were full of greed as she looked at the ring on my hand. Wendy, I really like the ring on your hand. Can I try it on? The nearby waiter immediately apologized. I'm sorry, but this ring has already been reserved. Would you like to look at something else? Cynthia's eyes turned red in an instant. Wendy, do you know about our wedding in 5 days, and are you deliberately teaming up with the staff here to make trouble? I really like this ring. I just want to experience what it feels like to be a bride. Can't you just let me try it on?